You're on prison with a smartphone.
I had a smartphone, yeah. I wasn't making tremendous money, but for prison, it was quite nice, you know? I got all the prison tamales I wanted.
How would you say we helped you?
I remember thinking, if I could figure out how to make money with student debt using John Crestani's tactics, I know I'll make a lot of money. It was like fast forward 6 months, I was living in a penthouse.
Where were you at revenue-wise before joining our program, and where are you at now?
So it depends on what iteration. This is, you've gone through so many phases, Mr. John Crestani. I followed you every step of the way. I've done very well with your stuff. But when it comes to the AI stuff, I was in prison when I started the AI stuff. The whole January 6th thing, I don't know how you guys feel about it.
That's Ronnie Sandlin in the bright sweatshirt.
We did it! We did it! We did it!
On January 6th, the 34-year-old internet marketer, with hundreds of other supporters of former President Donald Trump, made their way into the Capitol.
I knew we took it too far. I knew that there was going to be consequences.
You're on prison with a smartphone.
I had a smartphone, yeah. So, you're not supposed to get I don't recommend getting a phone if you ever find yourself in prison, but I did. I was able to experiment with AI and run a business and make money. I mean, I wasn't making tremendous money, but for prison, it was quite nice, I got all the prison tamales I wanted.
Is that real tamales?
Yeah, oh, they're delicious. They're delicious. Yeah, so I had the tamale guy come in, anyway, that's very nice at prison. And so I was able to do this all from a phone. I'm talking a prison phone. When you get a smartphone, you're not getting the newest, latest, and greatest. Mine was so old, it had like hieroglyphics on the side of it. You know what I mean? Like it was like Cleopatra, like age and shit. It was old, man, like a Dorito chip. It was slow, but I was still making AI videos. You see the video, I'm sure you can show an example, but I was making, AI voices, AI music, AI video editing. Now everything is cloud processing. So there's no excuses, right? I had a phone. I was able to make these videos because it's all processed on the cloud now.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't need an expensive, fancy video editing machine. I was doing it from the phone, making video. Yeah. Was it the greatest, best user experience? No, I'm pretty sure I got carpal tunnel syndrome.
And you're using like cheap or free softwares, right?
Yeah. Well, I had a couple premium, right? I knew which one. The things that I kept premium is CapCut. I was using a lot of in prison. I was using a lot of 11 Labs for voice. And by the way, the ads that are performing the best for us are the ads that are AI narrative voices. So we've been testing, we spent a lot of money on user-generated content. None of it worked as well as AI voices. And it's a fraction of the cost, right? So we pay, I think, something like $300 to $500 a month for 11 Labs, which, by the way, that's commercial. Like we're cranking content out on that. But for the average person, you can pay like $20 a month. I mean, you can get it to say whatever you want. So the speed of implementation of testing different narratives and different copy is really, really advantageous to somebody that takes advantage of these tools. And it's cost effective, right? Versus hiring a voiceover actor, hiring a UGC creator, all that stuff. And so you can just really nail down what works and what doesn't. But we found it to be much more profitable. So, before I got into it, before we really, I learned from you a lot of the stuff, I wasn't making any money. I was in prison.
How much money did you make after you learned my system?
Well, I've made well over 6 figures, and that's, I would say, 8 months, so that's, and again, I'm just now getting back in society. So for a lot of people, that's a lot. That's, getting back out of prison. That's a lot of money. Now,
no, after you learned my system, like way back when?
Oh, way back. I made millions. I made millions. Yeah. And that's all, if you could Google me, and my Wikipedia page talks about, I owe $500,000. I owed, by the way, thank you very much, $500,000 of tax debt off. Anyway, long story. So you can see it's all on record. There's paper trails where, I paid myself $1.2 million that year. I didn't pay the taxes that particular 1 year. So after that, yeah, so millions. But the AI stuff is fairly new. So I think we're going to make a lot more in the AI stuff than the internet marketing. The beautiful thing is once you combine these two things, it's a really good knowledge base to have.
You just got out of prison. You were working on your smartphone. You've already made 6 figures with AI.
I could be making more, but my thing was I had to reintegrate back into society. And so I gave myself some time, just kind of not, stress myself out. But it allowed me, I could have made more. So, the whole thing is AI agent as a service is kind of one of the big things. I think you definitely touched upon that in your course. There's so much money to be made there. And now we're aggressively pursuing that market. But before, if I had pursued it more, I mean, I could see easily making 7 figures that amount of time I've already been out of prison. If I had been pursuing, that's where we're going now. But, so I I could have made more.
Tell us about what your life was like before learning affiliate marketing. And
I've had a lot of different hats, right? A lot of different versions of myself. And I've done all types of jobs. I was a janitor at a theme park. So I don't know if you're for the Californians, at Knott's Berry Farms. You know, it's like kind of like a knockoff Disneyland, but it's, you know, kind of the rides are cool or whatever. So I was a janitor there. Lots of fecal matter. Yeah, lots is about, it's actually a lot more than you'd think. It's like, I didn't know. It's just disgusting. It's disgusting. So lots of fecal matter I dealt with. You know, I've worked sales, done car sales. I've done a loan officer. I've done all kinds of stuff, right? So a lot of sales and, you know, just shitty jobs. No pun intended. You know, some actual shit.
yes,
I've had a lot of different hats, but it's the internet marketing that has been my passion for so long. And, you know, back when we first started, John, I know that like telling people that you were into internet marketing, it was like, wow, like, are you the Nigerian scammer? Are you the guy sending me the penis fills? Are you like, you know, wire fraud? It's like, you know, people were like, didn't have a way to conceptualize that. Like internet marketing, you're going to make money online. They couldn't even wrap their head around working remote. I don't have an argument. So you will know you're likely going to work remote. Like it doesn't make sense to go into an office anymore. And they would argue with me. Those, you know, those people were all Zooming and doing all that. So, but back then it was a big deal.
what were your goals and what was blocking you from achieving them at that time before you were working with us?
Okay, so the big thing was like clarity on what exactly to do. I remember I saw your video and it was an interesting time in my life where I was broke because I was, you know, just never had any success online and just couldn't figure it out, man. And I saw your video and I saw you show at your actual ads and show what you were doing. I never seen you went so like upfront forward. And then especially on YouTube, now mind you, like this is like, it wasn't the same YouTube years ago. So people weren't showing stuff like this, like showing their dashboard and showing their ads and showing the amount of money that they spent and basically the whole thing. I mean, I don't feel like you hadn't held me back. And when I saw that, it was like, okay, this is totally doable. And at the time, I remember thinking if I could figure out the student debt situation, right? It was such a big deal back then. It still is, I think, probably if you're watching this. And I remember thinking if I could figure out how to make money with student debt using John Crestani's tactics, I know I'll make a lot of money. It was like fast forward 6 months, I was living at a penthouse. Like my whole life had changed. I mean, it really happens that quickly. I remember the first day I made my first $1,000. That was a big day for me. And I remember waking up at like, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, turned my ads on, went back to sleep, woke up at 8 or 9 and saw that I already made like $300 profit. And that was like, I thought that was a mistake. I thought, oh my God, like it just spent out of control. Like there's no way I missed something unless I'm wrong. Anyway, I had made $300. By the end of the day, I'd made over $1,000. That's it. And then it just kept happening day after day. And I was like, fuck, like, excuse my language, well, shit. Well, crap. Well, darn, this is a real way to make money, you know? Yeah, I just never looked back, man. I mean, like, why look back? I mean, I've had my ups and downs, but at the end of the day, I keep going back to the center of marketing thing because there's so many levels to this game, right? There's the surface level. I just want to make money for myself so I can like enjoy and travel, and you can get to that level. Then there's the levels that are like, you know, like private equity and, you know, exit strategies and really, really big plays that are like multi-generational wealth plays. And so it all starts from like learning the basics, right? And that's where you've always come in for so many people, where you show them what's possible and show them the framework that they can go invent themselves and be whoever they want to be within this very, very real ecosystem of marketing. But now the AI stuff, it just makes it phenomenal.
What had you tried before to make money?
I was selling mobile websites. You know, that was my thing. Well, you need a mobile website because it's about to be mobile only traffic. And people could
How much were you charging?
$400 or something stupid.
I mean, is this a famous?
No, no, dude. It was like 2013. I was going around selling mobile website. You asked me how I was trying to make money. I mean, it was just a struggle, dude. It was a nightmare selling these mobile. I would go like basically door to door. I don't know. Basically, I would go to businesses and like, yo, let me make your mobile website. And they're like, fuck off, you know. And I cock to you later, and I come back again. You know, they would just like, bro, if I buy a mobile website, will you leave us alone? I was like, yeah. It really was one of that. I was like, for Moose, yeah, I guess I was Moose, you know. And so, you know, it was funky to like close 1 or 2 of those a week. It was dreadful. And, but you know, it kept food in the refrigerator somewhat, and my desire for internet marketing, you know, but I had tried all types of stuff, man.
Yeah. What attracted you to my program?
Well, I just think like when I saw that video of you being so open, that's before you had a program even. And I reached out to you and I was like, you know, this guy's showing the real deal. Like, this guy is not holding anything back and he's really doing it. He's really living this life. it's hard to fake the funk. You know, it's a certain point when you are showing so many levels of like proof. And, you know, for me, it was, am I going to take a step forward or am I going to like just ignore what I want and say it's whatever, you know? Anyway, so that is how I found you and I started learning from you. Yeah.
How long was the period between when you started making monies? How long was that period? And like what almost kept you like from applying things or?
It happened really quickly, man. Like after I met you, and it all came together. You know, I was selling those mobile websites, and I had this dude. I sold a mobile website, and I'm like, "Hey, you know, you like any mobile website?" He goes, "Nah, it's terrible." And I thought he was gonna ask for a refund. And
It sounds like a famous.
no, he wasn't. He goes, "Yeah, your website sucks, bro. That's not what I'm calling you. You know anything about lead generation?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I do." That's if I didn't know shit about lead generation at the time. I'm like, "Yeah, bro, you're talking to the man. Yeah, of course I know. I wouldn't do that." And then he was like, "Well, come down to my restaurant and I'll get you lunch and we talk about this lead gen thing I want to do." And he was talking about student debt, and I was just something I was thinking about when I saw your video, and just was something that was I wanted to do. So anyway, he wanted to set up a call center, and we set up a call center in just right across the street from his restaurant. And I had me running that, and we made a bunch of money using the strategies, you know, like advertorial stuff, some of the stuff you teach. And then he realized like that we started using the same strategies for his restaurant, and he was making so much money with his restaurant. He was like, "Dude, like just running ads to my restaurant's making me so much money that like I'm just gonna focus on that. You can have this other business." Yeah, that was the student debt business. Yeah, Sky. You remember Sky? Did you ever meet Sky? I mean,
I'm not sure.
Guy. Love the guy to death.
I'm not sure. That's crazy.
But yeah, he handed me a 7-figure business.
What steps did you take after you got that opportunity? Tell me about the steps you took to setting up. You set up the ads, you did research on the competitors, and some of the steps, targeting research, like
That's
creative.
a good question. I kind of realized real quickly that I had a real knack for writing copy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so we really quickly became, our copy was just superior to the competitors. So there wasn't even like, we just wiped them out super quick. We took a lot of market share almost immediately in that market. I mean, I can't even remember. They disappeared as soon as we went in there with these strategies. And for us, it was super lucrative because we had something that converted really well. And it was so outside of the box, right? So most people at the time were advertising stuff that look like ads. And I always tell people, look, if your ad looks like an ad, nobody wants to be sold to, right? Like we love to buy, but hate to be sold to, right? And so that was what we focused on is how do we make our ad not look like an ad and have value that people want to share, that like Cindy, Sally, Susie, Chris, Steven, you know, Brandon, tagging all their friends and shit. Like, did you see this? You know, that we want to get that reaction out of people. And they're not going to do that if it's the ad.
I've seen your ads get shared. Yeah, I remember I was looking at the share count on your ads,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my God. I was like, Ronnie, you were telling me your cost one time. I was like, surely you can't be getting like penny cost per click.
Yeah.
You're like, bro, it's less than a penny. I'm like, get out of here. Then I see your ads getting shared like every other person. I'm like, what the? How would you say we helped you?
You've always been a resource educationally, and then your network, right? If you go to your events, and you know, like which I've gone to many of your events, and you know, the network that you attract or people that you have around you have always been very high value people and people that help me get to the next level and help me accomplish goals. And so it's more than just the education, right? Like the education is just one step. That's what a lot of people don't understand. You can rip these courses, all these bootleg courses out there, but they don't realize that a big part of it is the community that you have. And so that is very, very important and something, I think that answers it. What was the question? I feel like I'm answering it.
What would you say the single most helpful part of the whole process, you know, of you knowing me or anything? Like, what would you say the single most helpful thing of like me being in, I guess, your life somehow or a course or information or whatever?
It's like showing what's possible, right? Like, it's like, for me, it was seeing this is a real guy really doing it, and he's really laying down the steps on how it works step by step. And so there was no excuse. Like, this is actually how it's done. And I visualize it and I can see it working. That to me that's super helpful. I don't think there's many people out here doing it like that. You know, people are scared. People are scared. They live in fear, scarcity mentality. You know, you and I don't see the world like that, but that's how many people do see the world. And so they're not giving you the full juice. You get the full juice, the V8 juice. Delicious.
What was the most helpful thing about our like community and network?
Look, the community of people cannot be undervalued, right? And so it's the ability to share ideas and to be able to share talents and to be able to share resources in a lot of ways, right? If you're not part of a community of people that are getting to where you want to go. My mom's into quilts. I love quilts. quilts. I actually have gotten an appreciation for quilts. Beautiful, actually, beautiful artwork. American folk, Americana art. I appreciate it.
I like it. I actually think it's a really good symbol.
Yeah.
I think it's really powerful. Actually.
So, it's like, of course, it's like a quilt. You're quilting all these patchwork of different experiences and different knowledges and different ways of looking at the world. And you're like the quilt maker. When you look at the quilt, it's a beautifully constructed quilt. And it's not just what looks like patchwork is actually beautiful collage that makes sense and has a cohesive pattern to it. And that's a rare quality. And so yours is a quilt work of experiences, Mr. John.
What's different about me versus like some of these guys like Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, like some of the Sam, I don't know, like the other guys you would consider being like, I need to listen to what that guy's saying.
Everyone has a different approach, right? If you look at somebody like Gary Vee, it's all about jab and punch, and it's real aggressive, like, you know what I mean? Which is good for some people. Then you got Grant Cardone, which is about 10Xing, right? But 10X is zero, still zero. Ty Lopez is all about knowledge, right? Dude, I had plenty of knowledge, dude. You know what I mean? What I liked about yours was about results. It's like, I didn't need more knowledge. I could 10X zero. I don't want to keep getting jab, punched and bit. Gary's V, it's every day, every week. It was something new I got to fucking learn. I can't sleep. You know what I mean? They want me to sleep. It was untenable for me.
What's your thoughts about Tony Robbins?
I respect our elders.
If someone's on the fence about joining my program, like my coaching program, my mentorship program, what do you say?
Hey, look, here's the deal. If you learn one thing, just one thing off of your course, it could change your whole life. One thing. And there's obviously more than one thing to learn, but it's up to the person. Like, I go to a lot of conferences, and these conferences are like, this one was like $3,000 to $4,000 per, just to attend for 2 or 3 days. It's a lot of money, right? And so if you're going to go to the conference, it's got to be worth your time. But I think if I just learn one thing, if I meet one person that helps me get to the next level, that's worth well more than $3,000 to $4,000. So to be on the fence is like saying, I'm closing the opportunities and options available to me. That doesn't make any sense to me. Some people, they like that. They don't like opportunities. They don't like exploring, and they don't like, anything that's going to get them better and above where they're at. They're satisfied. So if you're satisfied and that's where you're at in life, look, God bless you. But if that's what's keeping you back, I would say really it's time to look in the mirror.
Why should people learn AI right now?
If you don't learn AI right now, and it may already be too late, I don't think it is. I think it's kind of, we have a small window of opportunity. You are not going to be able to compete in this new marketplace. And by the way, for every job that they remove from the AI, from the workforce, the AI removes, I would say for 1 out of every 10 jobs, that's removed from the workforce, there's going to be one ultra high paid job to the people that are in.
Yeah.
So you remove 10, there'll be one person that takes. So you want to be this 10 that gets, or do you want to be the one that's getting, a master? The master's AI. You can either be a puppet of AI or the master. You could be the fallout of AI, or you can be, the person it's the biggest wealth opportunity in our lifetimes. You will say crypto. I don't think it's good. AI is a much bigger opportunity than crypto. The market cap, the market share, there's so much more in AI than crypto will ever be. And people made a fortune in crypto and are losing a fortune now, by the way. That's just not going to be the case with AI. That's why, look at companies like NVIDIA, right? People say I think still a steal. If you look at what's coming down the horizon, I think it's still a steal to invest in NVIDIA. There's only upside potential.
What an interesting interview. Well, leave a comment if you have any. Very fun times. By the way, he had on his little lanyard in the beginning, he had been using one of his friend's passes to get into the conference, I guess. But, what you can do is amazing when you combine AI and affiliate marketing. I encourage you to get my program, the AI Marketers Club, just $27 a year. There's a link in the description. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content. I do a lot of tutorials on AI and affiliate marketing, and I do, some of these interviews now. So see you soon.